Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk podcast. This United show. This is Devil's Advocate. I'm back at the wheel tonight. I took a bit of time off for all multiple different reasons, but back tonight. Big game to talk about, obviously, in the race for Champions League football, and no two better men to come in and talk about. We've been building this up privately in the group chat for weeks, and it's great to be here. So obviously, you can see to my right, I'm joined by Jamie, and this man needs no introduction, Mr. Evan Fahy.
Our Chelsea back with a bang.
Back with a bang, yeah, quite literally. So yeah, obviously, we're here today to talk about Manchester United and Chelsea. We're going to talk about, first of all, the race for top four. Then we're going to talk about, obviously, are Chelsea a sleeping giant? Are they going to come back next season? We're going to get both lads' opinions on that. And then we will also chat about combined 11s. And these two fellas, if anyone who watches these two guys, they have great opinions, strong opinions, but will they be able to agree with each other in a combined 11? That will remain to be seen. So we will do that as well. And then obviously we'll talk with team news for both teams and stuff like that. So first of all, Mr. Andrews, obviously the potential route to Champions League football has been a bit bumpier than it probably should have been in the last couple of weeks. The away form, that I suppose the away defeats to obviously the West Ham, to Brighton, and then the draw at Spurs. We've kind of done it the old-fashioned United way, that we're the old-fashioned United way. We're making it hard for ourselves almost to qualify for Champions League. I suppose, first of all, what do you make of our form leading up to this game? And also, I suppose, do you think we can take any hope from the fact that our next two games, that we only need 1 point from the next two games, and the fact them two games are at home, considering our home record this season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've made far much more of it than we needed to. We've just got to, thank our lucky stars that we were in such good form, sort of pre-World Cup and post-World Cup, that Rashford was in the form that he was, because otherwise I don't think we'd be anywhere near it. We picked the worst possible time in the season to decide to start dropping our form. Liverpool picked a really good point to pick up. I did not think that a few months ago Liverpool would be anywhere near where they are now. So you like to think, though, that given the fact that we've conceded 8 goals at home all season, we've lost 2 games at home all season, one in the league and one against Sociedad. You'd like to think that at some point we could pick up a point against either of these two, but I swear to God, man, it would be just like us against Chelsea. If nothing more than to give the likes of Evan and Sean and then a bit to laugh about, but it'd be just like us to decide to lose against what has been a poor Chelsea side this season. Let's make no odds about it. And then go into the final day knowing that realistically only a win. Well, we need to be in charge of our own destiny. If we pick up a point against Fulham at home on the final day, then yeah, fair enough. But I really hope that against Chelsea we can get it boxed off. They've been poor. We've been good at home, and we can grind out results. So fingers crossed. But yeah, like you say, we've done it the old United way, haven't we? We've made it difficult for ourselves, but it's football, isn't it? Like, imagine winning the league with 4 or 5 games to spare. Boring, absolutely boring. Who wants to do that? You want excitement down to the wire. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to be in a position where you're playing the kids because your first team are on the beach already. So we'll keep getting squeaky bum time right down to the final whistle on the end of the match day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we literally don't make anything easy for ourselves. And I think, look, if historically, bar maybe the season last time we won the league under Fergie, we won the league with 5 games to go. But other than that, if you look historically at the end of Manchester United seasons, it always goes down to the fucking wire. It's never easy. This football club always drags its fans through the shits, whether it's the owners or whether it's the fucking team. It's always the way. This fella's going to talk about ownership.
Ungrateful. You're so ungrateful. The owners have been brilliant for you.
Yeah, look, yeah, they haven't been. But yeah, it's a tough one, because obviously this is a big game. Look, if you look at the last, let's say 5 times we've played Chelsea, it's been 0-0 or 1-1. They've always been tight games, despite either us being in poor form or them being in poor form. And we're talking about teams on the beach. You could arguably say Chelsea's been on the beach since Christmas. You could, right? Because they knew kind of Champions League was probably gone around then. But this is Frank Lampard.
Yeah, it was kind of touch and go, I won't lie.
Yeah, like
I was in my Potter out phase at that stage.
So ungrateful, man. The guy was a genius. The guy was a genius.
I had my blinkers on. All I could see was Potter leaving. That's all I could see.
Yeah, like look, it's a strange one coming up. I think, especially at home, because Chelsea, like I said, have probably been on and off the beach since Christmas, because the managerial changes and ownership changes and stuff like that. The club was going through kind of a rebuilding phase. But I think this is a dangerous game to come into, because Frank Lampard, for how bad he's been with Everton and Chelsea this season, he's going to want to go out with a big win. He's going to want to get a scalp of somebody, and I think that's dangerous territory for United if we take Chelsea lightly tomorrow, because regardless of how poor they've been for their standards, they still have a few quality players in there, and I think on their day, like we know, Jamie, with some of our players on their day, they can put a team to the sword, and I think Chelsea could do the same on their day. But Evan, from an outside point of view, I suppose looking at United from the outside this season overall, what you make of, I suppose, a difference of Erik Ten Hag than what maybe Ralph Rangnick's Man United was last season, like the difference in both teams?
You can probably see it clearly. There's more out of the players in general. You can see it on the pitch. There's more excitement in the play game. The passing, the shooting, the way the team is set up, the style of play, it's all completely different. And you can see it from a mile away. You can see it in the fans itself and in the players themselves on and off the pitch, like the way they handle themselves. It's like you've got a new lease of life, and this one person coming in with this team is just after revamping the whole thing. And it's from an opposition point of view, it's I hate seeing it. But I can see it from a United's point of view, it's like a drink of water after a night of sessioning. Do you know what I mean? It's that first up a drink, like, and it's like that. Do you know, it's French kiss, like. It's amazing to see probably from your side of view, but you kind of hit the nail on the head. You dragged the arse out of this, and you struggled through it in the last few years now to get top four, and you kind of hit the nail on the head there to say that, like, it's a dangerous territory to come up against a Chelsea side who have nothing to lose. We're there anyway, where you have everything to lose. You need this point in the next few games to secure top four. Like, I can even see it going out losing 2-1 to Chelsea, and then scraping that draw against Fulham. Like, it's a United moment, if anything. Like, it's set up for United to go like that, if you get me. But absolute shite talk from Jamie straight off the bat, winning the league with five or six games to go. Jamie, you be out celebrating on the fucking streets.
Nah, obviously I'm taking the piss.
Every hand, so don't give me that shit. It's boring.
Obviously, I'm taking the piss.
You'd be out celebrating yourself. You'd be delighted.
I grew up
with 5 or 6 games.
I grew up watching my team do that year in, year out. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was my childhood. Was watching that. But
Jamie was out Queensgate when he was 7 years old, drinking bottles, watching Fergie.
Absolutely. Do you know what I mean? My dad was taking me there, sitting me on his shoulder, get me in the swing of things. But you spot on. Like, the fact that we could have had this wrapped up ages ago, and instead we've actually dragged it. And again, there is nothing more United than us being top four and thinking it's a given for most of the season, only to lose to Chelsea and then spend 90 minutes against Fulham with Liverpool breathing on our necks. Exactly. Liverpool will pick up an early lead, and it'll be, as things stand, Liverpool are going to finish in the top four, and United are going to slip out, and then we'll go 1-0 down. And honestly, I can see it already that the script's written, so we just need to get it done. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. Smash Fat Frank. Get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see losing to Chelsea now, dropping the points, and then scraping the hole for Fulham. Then
Garnacho off the bench on Sunday. That's what probably happened.
He's a 7-minute winner or something like that. Like,
yeah, and look, it's we've done it the hard way. It could happen again, but yeah, like, look, you're right. I think, going back to your point, I think Ten Hag has done well in reshaping the club. I think, look, it's not just him. I think the additions he's brought in, like Lisandro Martinez, though,
policy signing, I do say so myself. Policy signing,
like bringing him in, bringing Casemiro in, giving the defense a bit more restructuring. Like my favorite David De Gea fans in the comments have said, "Here for the 18th clean sheet." Like David De Gea was our goalkeeper last year, and we shipped our most goals in Premier League history. And like we've most the same defense as that, but like look, he's done well to a point, and I think it'd be a shame if Erik Ten Hag was not to finish in the top 4 after winning the Carabao Cup and though doing well and though really rebuilding. Like it'd be a shame if it was to fall at this stage of the season. I do think. Look, I have full confidence that he'll get the point in the 2 games anyway.
But the thing is, right, for me, even if United do fall short, you can't disregard what he's done for the club in the season that you have to have in the fairness. Whatever goes on, even if you don't get top 4, Jesus, credit, in all fairness, like credit where credit is due. He's been fucking mighty. United have been mighty. Now you might leave 1 or 2 chances behind you, but you can't really knock what the man has done like this season for the club. Like they said, bringing in the players, Casemiro, I consider Casemiro for United what Silva done for Chelsea, if that makes sense. That's the comparison I put Casemiro is. He's been unreal now. In fairness, credit where credit is due. Like I said, he's been a superstar.
Yeah, look, he's been brilliant. He's really helped us. Like, look, we've been since Michael Carrick left the club in 2013, Jamie. I'd say we've been crying out for a DM. Like, well, he didn't leave the club. Carrick played for a couple more years, but that was like Carrick's best season, and he kind of drifted out of the team then. At that point, he obviously we brought in Schneiderlin and Herrera and other players, and Carrick wasn't as integral. But I think since Michael Carrick, Jamie, like we could probably agree, Casemiro's been that 6 that we've been crying out for in the last kind of decade.
Yeah, 100%. It's about more than just like having a body in there. So when we brought Schneiderlin in, he wasn't intelligent enough to play how we wanted to play. Like no disrespect to the man. I thought he was mint when he was at Southampton, and I thought he was going to be really good for us. But we've ended up over the years having to play 2 players there to do one person's role because we've never been able to have, like Carrick was, somebody that can dictate the play, they can read the pass, they know how to intercept a ball because they know where it's going to go before it's even been played. And I think Casemiro's come in and done that. The problem we have now is about making sure that we go out and we find his replacement before he becomes a hindrance at the club. I'm not saying that's going to happen next season or whatever, but we don't want to be getting to Casemiro being 35, 36, and he's still playing week in, week out for us. And that's what we do. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but there's nothing wrong with that, though. But you look. This is what I'm saying. Look at Thiago Silva. The man is closer to 40 than he is 35, like, and he's still balling like in the Premier League.
Yeah. But what I mean is that
the age doesn't matter as long as he's doing the job. Like, that's the way I see it.
But the problem is that the age doesn't matter as long as you have a replacement either lined up or one that's going to be understudying and learning from him. If Casemiro continues to ball out up until the age of 40, mint. But I want someone either in the wings learning or somebody that we've already planned to bring in because, we knew Carrick was going to leave for however long we did. We didn't find a suitable replacement. We didn't replace Paul Scholes pretty much ever. You know what I mean? We replaced Cristiano Ronaldo with Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, our club really struggles with having any sort of forward thinking and planning in place. You look at City, right? The way City do their business, granted, there's all the stuff in the background, there's all the shady deals, and there's the 115 financial irregularities, etc., etc. But the way they do their transfer business is genius. So they had Fernandinho still at the club. They brought Rodri in to obviously be Fernandinho's understudy, get ready to replace him. And then they bring in, granted he's not played as much, but they'll bring in Calvin Phillips to sit and understudy Rodri. So Rodri's replacement was already at the club before Fernandinho was even out the door. And that's what City do, is that they're always looking for who can we bring in to replace this player that has still got 6 years at the top. And that's why their players leave for profit, our players don't. Do you know what I mean? It's good to see you on side, Trevor. It's good to see you on side.
Mustache is hypnotising, so it is. That's
what it is. But that's my thing. So I agree with you. Cause, I'm not being ageist here. Like, there are Rolls Royce players that still playing. Thiago Silva has been phenomenal. He's probably been your best player all season. And like I say, the guy's closer to getting his bus pass than he is to making his debut. So as long as he's still hitting those heights, that's fine. But obviously, you've brought in the likes of Badiashile, you've brought in Wesley Fofana, you're bringing in young blood to hopefully learn from a great professional, and that's what we need to take advantage of. The club need to be sitting down and thinking, who can we bring in to play alongside Casemiro, or to at least be around him in training to learn off him while he's still at the peak of his powers. So a bit off tangent there, but
Do you know the way you made that comparison of like Fernandinho and Rodri? Like I'm looking at Moses Caicedo in the minute, and I'm thinking like, Jesus Christ, I'd love for us
Oh,
to
100%.
get him now
100%.
while he's 21, get him in, have Casemiro for another year or two, and like Caicedo probably play alongside him, or you know, in a 4-3-3 or whatever it may be, and he'd learn off him.
But Caicedo is the perfect example of it, right? Because we were linked with him 2 years ago when he was at Independiente or whatever it was. And and then obviously everyone does what they do. There's pictures of him and his family all in United shirts, and he's got a United birthday cake, and it comes out that he's a massive fan of United. And it was like we could have signed him for like 2 million or whatever it was.
It was 4 million, and I was reading this today, Jamie. 4 million, and Avi and Joe Glazer couldn't justify, putting the 4 million in because they didn't know.
Here we go. The Glazers. The Glazers are getting it now. Go on,
it's common knowledge, my friend. It's common knowledge.
But that's a perfect example. And then instead, now what we've had to do is, because of the inability of our board and of the people in the powers that be to identify good talent and acquire them, you now end up in the race to sign, Moses Caicedo. You end up paying the premium that Brighton want for him. You'll end up paying £80 million to sign him when you could have bought him 2 years ago. Now, granted, there's the argument that maybe he wouldn't have turned into the player that he is now if he wasn't playing for Brighton week in, week out. But there has to be a middle ground. Yeah. Like, City don't do it. City have just bought Julian Alvarez from River Plate. Again, somebody that Ralph Rangnick suggested to our board of directors. And we said no. And look at Alvarez. The guy's probably top 5 strikers in the league, and he's on the bench.
So that's when I'm good for City. You're able to throw money, but the likes of Brighton that don't have that kind of money and have to develop players. If the club doesn't have the money to buy in these world class players already, do what the likes of Brighton are doing. Develop the youth in. Now United have come to that kind of a small bit now, in fairness to them, but the reason why these small clubs are getting these deadly youngsters coming in because they've developed them up through the years, and they're getting millions and millions thrown at them for these players that they've developed up. And that's how these mid-table clubs, or in Brighton cases, to be more top-table, but that's how they're getting these millions and millions thrown at them for these youngsters. Like, it's Trevor is on one in the group chat tonight. What's going on? Like,
Trevor does this. Trevor does this to every guest we get on. He asks very I suppose what use here. Very good question.
Distracting questions. That's what Trevor does.
Yeah. We'll come to a couple of comments here just while we're here on this. And we've a comment in here says, "Are we happy with the fullback options we have at United, or do you need more?" I suppose, look, for me, I think at left back we're quite solid. I think Sean Malacia's, I think Malacia is a good understudy to Shaw. I think right back, I'd probably say I'd be looking to get someone in to compete with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I do think Dalot defensively, I think he's going back to his kind of old habits. I do think maybe we can do a bit better. I think the way I look at it with Wan-Bissaka and Dalot is, like, if Wan-Bissaka is a specialist in one particular area, where Dalot's a jack of all trades but a specialist in none.
Yeah,
definitely. Like, I think that's the way I'd look at it with the fullbacks. What do you think, Jamie, on your side?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Tyrone Malacia is still obviously quite raw and quite young. He has had bright sparks throughout the season, and then he's tailed off a little bit. But I agree with you, spot on the right back. I think that Dalot is one of those that he's had his moments where he looks all right, and then the next day he doesn't, like you say, he doesn't do anything well enough to be bad at something else. Whereas Wan-Bissaka, he's improved massively with his attacking, by the way. But he's so good one-on-one defensively that you don't mind that he's not putting up the numbers that a more attacking fullback would, because you sacrifice that and think, well, at least we know that we've got him, playing defensively. And I think Trevor again there sums it up really well. So for me, yeah, I'd be absolutely getting somebody to compete with Wan-Bissaka. And if you're playing a game against, a speedy left inside forward or whatever, somebody that wants to try and take the ball past the fullback, then you might think, all right, we'll play Wan-Bissaka there. We'll maybe sacrifice a little bit of our attacking threat to box in the likes of Grealish. Do you know what I mean? Like somebody like that, because you don't want to lose that speciality. There's very few tacklers around that are as good as Aaron Wan-Bissaka. What was I say? Joelinton at Newcastle is a similar profile in terms of he's got long extremities, right? The guy's limbs are 90% of his body, I swear to God. And yeah, he picks up a few more bookings than Wan-Bissaka does. But watch how they both tackle, the way they can wrap their leg around the ball from any sort of angle. And it impresses me. And there's very few, like I say, like Wan-Bissaka that can do that. So for me, yeah, absolutely keep hold of him in the summer. I know there's been links that he's going to be surplus to requirements, but I think that'd be a grave mistake. And then, obviously there's the links with Frimpong.
I think if you had Frimpong and Wan-Bissaka as two different options, I think tactically we could be very flexible, especially in games where, like, look, we might have 60-70% of the ball, depending on if our goalkeeper changes. And then obviously there's the links with Yuri and Timber again, and for me that's something that I'd be really happy with again, is that Ten Hag bringing in a former player that he's worked with, because it's worked really well with Lissandro Martinez and with Anthony. If that man turns around and goes, yeah, bring me Yuri and Timber. We've seen top coaches this year adopt, their inverted fullbacks. Pep Guardiola playing 4 centre-halves across the back line and having 2 of them drop into defensive midfield, which we've seen Ten Hag do at Ajax when he was still there. That's how he liked to operate. That's where Yuri and Timber used to play. So if you can bring him in and do something similar, then I'm all for it. But I think a bit more depth is him and Sean. Him and here. I think said Sean. Shaw. As inverted fullbacks, they're very competent on the ball. I think they'd be good there. And by the way, whoever is that Dan person, it's someone in our group chat, by the way, and I'll be pulling them up on it later. If you see his name, I'm not going to read it out because Sean Maroney.
Where is it?
I only just clocked it.
It's Sean Maroney written all over it. I'm telling you now.
I can't see it at all.
I'm not going to bring it up on the screen, but anyone who knows Dan, shout out to Dan there. Anyway, we will move on to Chelsea because we've had a lot of like chat privately about Chelsea this season. It's been, like, in my lifetime, probably the worst I've seen Chelsea. And I watched Chelsea pre-Abramovich when you had like Gianfranco Zola, Doku Johnson, and when you had Ranieri as your manager.
Troubles. That's what we like to call them, the troubles.
Yeah, that's a strong phrase to use considering where we're from, but we're not going to talk about that. But like, talk to me. Obviously, like the last time we had you on, it was when Bodie sacked Tuchel, and obviously, look, it's well documented. You brought in Graham Potter, obviously a young, promising manager of Brighton, so obviously good body of work for being known as a young, progressive manager. But like, what have you made of your season? It seems like you've gone from European champions to it has been an insane drop, like in the last 18 months. Like, what's happened? Has this been something that's been a long time coming, like off the back of winning the Champions League, or do you think it's just Todd Bowley ripping the book up and kind of starting afresh?
We were doomed from the start. I tell you this now, we were doomed from the start. From the second it was announced Tuchel was gone. No, it was just an absolute disaster. There was 1 or 2 managers they could have brought in after, but Potter just was the complete opposite of what we needed. He was out of his depth, out of his range. He should have stayed where he was. He was going well. It was just too big of a jump for him to take on. It was absolute a shit show. And I've been any manager we've brought in, right? I've always given a chance. I've always said, right, let's see how they get on, see what happens here. From day one, I just had this gut feeling Potter was just going to be an absolute train wreck, and we can see it for what it is there now. And I can finally say to everyone that said, "Oh, give him a chance, give him a chance." I was right in the end. I told you so. But the thing is, from Potter got too long. For me, in my opinion, Potter got too long to try to redeem himself. He was after making a shit show of everything, and no, Bowley would not have. He wouldn't get rid of him. That was it. I reckon if we got rid of him sooner, had time to properly search, I'd say even before Christmas, had time to properly search for a good manager, even get Poch beforehand, give him full control over the transfer window, give him to himself, and leave Moss to do his own thing, because he's a brilliant manager, world-class manager, and he's proven that between Spurs and PSG. if he just got the time himself right, I reckon we would have been in a way better position than we are now. We wouldn't have been 12th, 11th, or 12th. We would have been up there, I think, fighting for fourth place.
And do you think, like when you look at the approach, obviously, let's take Graham Potter out of the situation for a minute, because I think obviously you're right. Like, look, I think there was a couple of results too late. I think when he got the sack, I think Jamie would probably agree as well. I think the results were stagnating for a good long period. And I can understand, like, if you look at Chelsea, like traditionally, I don't want to use the term, but like a sacking club. So I mean, they're ruthless.
I'll say it straight out, absolute ruthless. And at times they're too ruthless. But for whatever reason, they weren't like that with Potter, and it just baffles me how they're able to just get rid of manager after manager. When it came to Potter, it was just they were having none of it, like, and it just boiled my blood. I think it boiled my blood for a lot of other fans then as well, like, and it just got to the point where it was just absolutely pure toxic. Without that, you set up a match there, watching them with the lads, and knew straight away, like, this is just going to be a fucking disaster. Like, it's just got to the point where it was scandalous. Like, but if we got rid of him earlier, got in the proper manager sooner, we'd be up there fighting for fourth. So,
Jamie, what do you make of this season? Because obviously it was expected. Look, if we look at the last couple of years, on the back when Champions League, they bought Lukaku, and obviously this summer they brought in the likes of Koulibaly and other players. It was expected Chelsea were going to be title challengers. But like, what do you think is fundamentally wrong at that football club? Because they seem to have a lot of success in the short term, but it's never like sustained long term. Is it a fact this club is too ruthless, or like what do you think is wrong? Like, especially in the last 2 years.
I think Chelsea are an odd one because they're a bit of a misnomer, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way to your club, but you have always been quite a short-term club. You're always looking at the next bit of success, which has worked for you in the past. Even in an era where we'd had Fergie for donkey's years, Arsenal had Wenger for donkey's years. Mourinho came in and he broke that duopoly that they held on the Premier League, and even that wasn't good enough for Abramovich. And then before you know it, he was gone again. And you go through cycles where you still seem to be winning stuff, even though nothing is done with a long-term vision. Maybe it's just a case of that it was all a bit too chop and change all too quickly. The sanctions being placed on the club, Abramovich having to quickly sell, Bowley coming in, and Americans owning football clubs. I'm not being xenophobic towards Americans here, but I can't think of a good American owner at the minute. And then obviously like Tuchel being sacked, which for things that was clearly off the pitch. Do you know what I mean? Like the guy was not. He was not delivering on the pitch, and the results were there. You'd won the Champions League in 2021, and
then they got to 2 cup finals last year as well, and 2 penalty shootouts away from winning the domestic double last year.
And that's the thing. And the thing for me is, right, there was talks in the group chat there about, it was all because of off the pitch. Who gives a fuck what happens off the pitch? The results were being delivered day in, day out. He was getting results. Regardless, there was a bit of a kind of a shit streak there, but like Jamie said, he hit on the nail on the head. We don't think about the long-term thing, and if we're not getting results now, this second, all right, well, head off, like, we'll get a new lad in. Do you know what I mean? And it's, I guess, think of it a bit, and I said this thing last year as well, it's frustrating to see. Yes, it is nice getting a title or winning streak now, here and then, and getting top 4 or whatever, but it's also nice to have security in the long term. So it is. It's nice to know, right, well, this is my manager. I know what he's like. Same way we had Jose. He went on for a good stint. Like, or the same like Arsenal had Wenger. He had Fergie. It's nice to know when you have that security and you have a top quality manager there, and then season in, season out.
But it's been an odd one because obviously growing up, as long as I can remember, Chelsea have always been a revolving door, manager job. And again, I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like, I'm not taking a piss out of the club. It's just how the club has been structured and how it's been run. As soon as the ideas wash up a little bit, even if there's even the slightest bit of a hint of a drop off, that was it. Like, bang, here's your P45, off you go. And for some reason, like I say, it just. You won a Champions League with Di Matteo as a caretaker. I don't know if he was a caretaker, but you know what I mean? He'd been there for 4 months, 5 months?
Yeah.
You sacked Lampard, and then still managed to win the Champions League with a new manager that had come in. Like, granted, like, yeah, that run to the Champions League final was an interesting one. Do you know what I mean? There was never really a massively convincing performance in there, and I think City just as much lost that Champions League final as you won it. But at the end of the day, you're the ones who got your hand on the trophy, and you managed to do that after sacking your manager mid-season. So it's a very bizarre. Chelsea are a bizarre entity when it comes to that. But I just like I was saying, I just think that maybe this season it's been a lot of change. The transfers, I don't get it. The transfers have. Trevor distracted me again. But what do you mean I'm growing up? The transfers have been a bit haphazard. I never really understood it. I thought at the start you were making some good moves. I thought Koulibaly on paper was a really good signing. Raheem Sterling looked like a mint signing. And then things get even like people like Matt.
I think Sterling is a mint signing. He was a mint signing.
Yeah.
Koulibaly is top class, but when he came, it just looked like Lukaku in centre back. Like it was, do you know what I mean? It was fumbling. Like it was. Fair. So
playing with his jeans on.
Exactly. Like he came off the beer like the other night and just jump in there now. Like
it's like you get 1-2 off Paul Kelly, is it, Evan?
Exactly. Evan, jump in there and score 1-2 on Paul Kelly. There, go on.
Look, it's a strange one.
It's an interesting one.
It is. It's one that it can piss off a lot of fans if it keeps going. Like it's all well and good, like I said, getting titles there and then, but if we don't have security in the long term, I'm going to start getting taken. It's going to be strike 2 for Bowley then for me. So it is.
Because my thing then is that obviously you've bought all these young players, right? There doesn't seem to be a vision with the transfers other than high volume, good quality young players. Like Madueke obviously has got a lot of plaudits. The guy seems like a bit of a baller. Wesley Fofana looked really good. Badiashile's looked really good whenever I've seen it. Enzo Fernandez, like, again, the money was ridiculous, but who cares, because he's a phenomenal footballer and he showed that at the World Cup. But then when you've not got a plan in place for the future of your manager, what do you do? What do you do with I thought Forest were being a bit haphazard with their signings, but you lot spending 350 million or whatever it was in January without having a plan in place for the succession. And I know obviously you're linked with Poch and stuff like that now, and it probably looks like it will be Poch. But what do you do now if the next manager goes sour and you still got this crop of youngsters being wasted?
That's the thing. We need security in it, and regardless of, say, if Poch comes in, he goes on a bit of a winning streak, and then he has a dive. We need to hold on. We need to knuckle down for the long haul. At the end of the day, we need to shape the club to the style of manager, not the manager to what the club has.
Can I ask you a question, Evan? It's just an honest question, right? Do you look at Poch's body of work, and it's not? Answer as honestly as you can. Do you look at his body of work at Southampton and Spurs in terms of his building job with young players as maybe the right manager to take you over, or do you look at his stint at PSG where he did kind of struggle to deal with the kind of bigger ego, so the Messis, the Mbappes, the Neymars of the world? Do you think that stint at PSG was an anomaly that you'd probably look to more his time in the Premier League at both Southampton and Spurs rather than his previous club?
Yeah, no, I think if you put anyone in that PSG position, you would have got the same result. Like, now, not taking credit away from him. By God, he's still a good manager. But I think if you put anyone, if I went to PSG, I reckon I would have done the same job. At the end of the day, the players on the pitch had that big ego and they played their own game. Like you see when the ball gets tracked back, Messi just strolls, Mbappe strolls. There's plenty of videos, highlights out there showing this as well. But his time with Spurs, I think building from essentially the ground up from like his stint with Spurs, he Keane and Son and the rest, like, no offense, but offense, dog shit. Like,
he got to the Champions League final with Winks and Sissoko midfield.
Exactly.
I always say to Steve, like, look, I love Steve, right? I do, and just put a disclaimer out here. But like that squad had no right to get to a final, and they did.
They had no business being there. But that's what I'm trying to say. They had no business being there in the first place, and he built on dog shit. Like, apart from Kane and Son, there's probably an argument there for Lloris, but
no, Trippier as well.
All right, fairness. But like he built a Champions League final team on dog shit. That has to be said for something. Like, So for him to come into Chelsea, he knows what's there. He knows what his style of play. He should be able to pull something out of the bag for us.
And just another one on that. Let's he's a long-term manager. Would you be willing? I suppose he's not in yet. Like circumstances can change or whatever, but would you be willing to, let's say, like same way we have Ten Hag now? We knew what Ten Hag was about in terms of like long-term and implementing his style of play. Would you give him the same kind of patience, kind of do a 2 to 3 year period? That we were kind of looking at with Ten Hag to implement his full style of play.
Being honest with you, I think Ten Hag is your new Fergie. I think he's there for the long haul. I think he's there for 5, 6, 7 years plus. Like, being honest with you, and not that I don't see that for Poch. He wasn't my first option. I wanted Enrique, but Poch is going to have to do. And I think going from what we had to what we're going to have, I would gladly give him 3 to 5 years, without question. And see, because I genuinely believe Chelsea are going to be a dark horse next year. Genuinely believe that.
Look, they have the money, they have the resources, they have the young players. Look, we finished 6th last season, and we should have finished 7th, only for the fact that Brighton were nice to us on the final day of the season and beat West Ham. And we were nearly in the Conference League. Fighting A's at Alkmaar fans away for Brighton last season. So thanks for that. So it's like, thanks for that, Brighton. Yeah. But look, it'd be interesting to see what happens, especially with all things considered, going forward. But we're talking about both of our clubs who are both currently going through rebuilding processes. And look, United are going through a rebuilding process since Fergie and David Gill walked out the door. But what I'm going to do now is I gave the lads a task earlier on today to pick a combined 11 each for Manchester United and Chelsea. Now, what I'm going to give the lads an opportunity to do with this combined 11 is that I'm going to get them to both name their combined 11s first. Now, if their combined 11s are different, then they're going to have to have a discussion about each other's combined 11 and then pick between both teams, and we'll pick a combined 11 if that makes sense. So because Evan's the opposition, I'm going to give Evan the floor with his combined 11 first, and then you can tell us your team formation and then your reasonings for particular choices. So Evan, fire away.
Right. So I said I have it on the phone here now, and I said in fairness, I go for the 4-3-3 formation. Me personally, I thought I was suiting Jamie on this one, but when he sent his one into the group chat, it just kind of threw me off a bit. I was like, all right, a little bit of a fucking mustachy move there now. What the fuck is going on? But anyway, I rolled with it. So I went with Kepa in goal. Obviously, from what I've seen and what you've been saying, fair enough, he won Golden Glove, whatever, but he's after having a shit show. I think Kepa is the best out of the 3 options that you actually have between Kepa, Mendy, and De Gea.
Can I throw in a spanner in the works? We're still technically paying Dean Henderson. Could we throw him in there, or is that out of
question? That's an absolute shit show there again. Like, well, I think your toss up, and Shane actually made a brilliant point in the group chat. Mendy's after getting a bad rap this season. In fairness to him, he has. He's been out injured for a while, but I think you're kind of tossed up then between Kepa and De Gea. I think Kepa just edges for me, just with all the kind of, is agenda the right word to use? David
no,
De Gea,
it's not.
Justice for David De Gea. But yeah, no, Kepa for me in goal. Then for the back line, I said I'm going to keep it even, right? I said back 4 of James, Silva. It was a toss-up then between Martinez and Varane, and then Shaw left. I said I give it to you. I said fair is fair now. I'm being very reasonable. I'm not in my own character myself. Normally I'd probably do a full Chelsea lineup, but the way things are running this year now, I said I'd give the benefit of the doubt. Like, so I had to give it a 50-50 on it. So then I had the midfield, right, going forward for midfield 3. Actually, no, I'll explain my choice with the likes with Silva over Varane. I think for me, Silva is in the top class percent of top Premier League centre backs. And there's no doubt about it. I can't fault the man to my heart. Like, I love him to bits. Reece James, I think he's the best right back in the Premier League, full stop. And I don't think many will try argue with me with that. And like I said, with Martinez and Shaw, then I think Shaw left back over the likes of Chilwell or Coco Melon, as I'd like to call him. And then with Martinez and Rand, I mean, Jamie, you can argue that yourself. Like, I don't mind whichever will come. Trevor, absolute throwing cheek at me again in the group in the chat. For the midfield, then I went for Casemiro. I think it's kind of obvious CDM, and then sitting in front of him is Enzo Fernandez. I think Enzo is just going to be such a baller next season, and he's done well for the club as he's come in already. But oh my God, the young fella has some serious potential. And then the third, then it pains me to say this.
Oh, go on, chef's kiss.
It absolutely pains me to say this. It's Bruno Fernandes sitting there. I think to try to put anyone else in there would be a kick in the teeth. And
I'm gonna lie. If you put anyone else in that number,
exactly,
10, I probably would have ended the stream right there. There was no
like, I'd be picking at strings, and you know me, I love a good shitstorm session, but I'd be picking at strings, putting anyone else in there. I don't think you're going to argue with me on Casemiro there and CDM. I'd find it hard for anyone
if
else.
It was prime N'Golo Kante, if it was N'Golo Kante in the prime against Casemiro, you have an argument. Like
prime N'Golo Kante, I
have a debate.
Exactly. I'd take prime N'Golo Kante all day, every day. No, I'd fight you tooth and nail on it. But I don't think you're going to argue too much with me on Enzo, and you're definitely not going to argue on Bruno Fernandes, without a doubt. Now, where I really struggled now was the front line. And I probably spent a good 30 minutes trying to justify my answers. And then I had a little touch of the biasism in there as well. Like, so I went, like I said, benefited out Rashford on the left, right? In fairness, he's been into a league of his own in terms of what he was. He's after stepping up, he's after coming back, he's after proving himself well on the pitch.
He's proved Chambers' family wrong, which is brilliant.
Don't talk me about them Chambers families. Absolutely disgraceful. The blast! I was fit to leave the group chat. I was genuinely fit to leave the group chat. Oh my God! Don't start me off because I'll go nuts again. You'll have to extend the podcast. On the right, then like I said, the bias came in, and I'm going to go with Sterling. He was a brilliant signing for Chelsea, and you can't hold that against him. He's after scoring amazing goals, and we just got him for an absolute steal. It was beyond belief that I thought when he was coming to Chelsea, I thought, well, that's kind of him, kind of finished now on the Prem boy. He's still up there, like, and it shows he still has the talent. And then for the centre, then it was a really tough one. But like I said, the bias.
Let me guess, Phil Fairhurst.
Huh?
Let me guess, you picked Phil Fairhurst, did you?
Joe Felix, man. Joe Felix, I think that he's an absolute baller. His potential is unreal, and I know I'm saying that there's a lot of potential there, but he's been a baller in La Liga. You can't deny that. He's taken to the Premier League from what we've seen so far. He's not afraid to throw the balls in. He's an absolute superstar in my eyes. And I think he's what Chelsea. It was kind of the first step to vamp up the club of the kind of shit show we were in. I think him under Poch will be just amazing. I can't see any much change to that now. And if there is, it's just the mustache talking. It's not Jamie at all. Anything other than that, now there might be one or two arguments about the forward line, but anything other than that is just, I can't see much change to it. Like, if you get me.
On that note, Mr. Andrews, hit us your combined 11, and then after that, then we'll decide what the actual combined 11 is. Then from that point,
is this Jamie's 11 or is this your mustache's 11? Right? We need to figure this out.
Bit of both. See, I was nice, right? I was nice, and I went with, much like you went for a 4-3-3. I went for a 3-5-2 to try and squeeze in as much of the Chelsea stuff as we could. So I wasn't being horrible. I think in goal doesn't really matter. all three of them have been as bad as each other, pretty much. De Gea, what De Gea's got going for him over the other two is that he's actually played the majority of the games this season. But I'd probably agree with you and say that Kepa goes in there over the three of them. Mad what happened to Mendy, because obviously 18 months ago Mendy was supposedly the best keeper in the world. In with,
and I wouldn't disagree with you on that. Like,
yeah, in with FIFA Pro Team of the Year. Do you know what I mean? Like absolute madness. So that decline, there's got to be something behind it. But yeah, Kepa keeps De Gea out of the Spain team, and I think he keeps De Gea out of our team as well. I went with a back three then, so I could squeeze in a few more. Because I agree, I think Thiago Silva is phenomenal. I think he's an absolute Rolls Royce of a defender, and he's what you want from a centre half. And I think he's been Chelsea's Player of the Year. Granted, it's been a shite year for them, but I think that Thiago's been at best. And then
he stepped up as a leader, and that's something you just can't.
And he's the perfect example of, you can tell how intelligent he is, because it doesn't matter that he's 36, because he's never really lost for pace, because he knows where he needs to be. So he doesn't need to rely on his pace to recover or anything like that. He knows where the ball's going to go. And granted, yeah, fair enough. Like he's had a couple of calamities next to him and things like that. Like Koulibaly's been really, really, really sort of, I'd say hit and miss, but he's been mainly miss all season. But Silva's one of those players that he doesn't panic. You don't see him really in a position. Like probably that, there's probably a few options, a few times this year that he has, but the majority of times you watch him per 90, he's calm, he's composed, and he knows what he needs to do. So he gets in for me. But then Varane and Martinez, I know obviously you said that it was a toss-up. Martinez for me has been one of the best centre-halves in the Premier League this season. We've had the likes of obviously like John Stones has been a monster. Sven Botman's revitalised Newcastle's defence, stuff like that. But Martinez, for the slander he got when we first signed him, before a ball was even kicked, right? The fact that people were saying he's too small. That man is so integral to not only like the fact that we have the most clean sheets in the league. Granted, exactly, it's not De Gea that's got the most clean sheets in the league. It's the United team, the United defence. But he's so integral to our first phase of play. And you've noticed, like, since he's been injured, it's one of the reasons why we've looked poor. As soon as we get into possession in that first phase of play and we're looking to build up, there's a reason why De Gea's looked a little bit shaky again, because he doesn't have his favourite outlet, because Martinez is cool and calm on the ball. And the fact that he can split the lines, it's a rare talent for a centre-half to have. So I think, like I say, he's been top 3 centre-halves in the league this season for me. And then, so the midfield 5, because obviously we're going to play with wing-backs, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here, right? Because Mark made a good comment made a good point in the comments that if it's based on this season, Reece James doesn't get into this side because he's been really unlucky with his injuries. But on talent, he gets in for me. I think, I know we had a conversation in the group chat a couple of weeks ago about it, and I think that overall Wan-Bissaka's been the better right back this season because he's played. Do you know what I mean? And Reece James has been unlucky. But obviously, Reece James has the higher ceiling, of course he does, and I think he's a more talented right back, and I think he is the best right back in the league. Except maybe it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's all subjective.
No, don't give me that maybe. You stroked my ego now. Don't give me that maybe. No,
what I mean is,
I was hooked there. You had me in the best right back in the world.
It's because you're listening to the mustache. No,
exactly. I'm the hypnotized.
Kieran Trippier has been phenomenal in the 18 months that he's played for Newcastle. Right. Reece James though is the better right back all in all. But you know what I mean?
Oh, I kicked him up by accident there.
Okay.
Booting you out. Right, so but anyway, so I'll go back to stroking your ego, is that Reece James goes in because he's phenomenally talented. If he can get a grip of his injuries, there's no reason why he can't go to the very, very, very top. And I know people say that, he's already lifted the Champions League, so of course he's been at the top, but he's not as an individual. Like, the guy's not hit his ceiling yet, and he's got a scary ceiling. He is what Liverpool fans think Trent Alexander-Arnold is.
Oh, for sure. And Trent's not fit to tie his laces. Like, it's beyond. Yeah. That's down to Liverpool fans being absolutely deluded. But that's just out and out Liverpool fans.
You have people like Jonathan Morley out there stroking his ego, like, do you know what I mean? And then call him shit the week after. Yeah. Do you know?
They're septic fine.
And then, so obviously he's playing right wing back or right wing, whatever we want to play. We're going to play an attacking formation actually, so we're going to play with right wing. So we're going to have the three centre halves of Silva, Martinez, and Varane. There's pretty good three centre halves, you know what I mean? So we don't need wing backs. We're playing Reece James at right wing. He can cover if he wants to, but let's just sit him on the halfway line. Enzo, Casemiro, Bruno, the middle three. And I don't think I'm going to hear many arguments against that.
Yeah, no,
Casemiro can sit.
We have the same there. Yeah.
I Scott McTominay. You're both fucked anyway.
Fred can go in.
Fred is in there.
What I was going to say, I think one of the Chelsea's issues they've had is that they played Enzo as a 6 a lot of the time this season, and he still looked good even out of his favourite position. Okay. And so if you play him as an 8 where he's meant to be played, you're getting a different beast out of him there. And then Luke Shaw, best left back in the league this season. I won't really hear anything else. I mean, granted, yes, the left back pool has been quite small, but head and shoulders. The fact that the guy's been one of the best left backs and one of the best centre halves all in one season.
But the thing is, hold on,
talent.
Is that saying much now? Because in the past, Luke Shaw has just been there. In my opinion, he's filling a role to me at United. For United, I think Luke Shaw has just been there.
Luke Shaw's always been mad talented.
I don't think Luke Shaw is this big mass. He's fucking world class. He's deadly. He's this. He's that. Luke Shaw is there for me. Like, he does his job and he does it well.
He'd walk into Chelsea's team, and there's not even two ifs or buts about it.
But the thing is, that's not saying much at the moment. Like.
But even let's say if Chilwell and Cucurella were on form, if Cucurella remembered how to defend and Chilwell wasn't injured the whole time, he'd walk into your back four and he'd dog walk. He'd walk them two like dogs into your. He'd dog walk.
Prime Chilwell, no way.
Keane, you've been rattled here, mate. You've let him.
Prime Chilwell walks all over Shaw.
Luke Shaw's one of the most creative
over Fat Shaw all day.
Ben Chilwell is, again, he's a bit of a misnomer as a footballer. He had a good 12-month period and he's been living off that ever since. He's been dog shit since he signed for Chelsea, because you can't stay fit for one, and then it's one of those that he doesn't really. I mean, he had those brief stints where he'd play 5 minutes for you and somehow manage to get an assist, or he'd score it or whatever. But he's never really showed the heights that he showed that earned him the move to Chelsea. And for some reason, Chelsea are quite exempt for any slander on transfers. So for the amount of talk people have about Antony being, £85 million and is he a waste of money? You spent £100 million on Mudryk, and honestly, man, there are Ukrainians that have fled the war that have done more for football than that man. Honestly, obviously,
I won't have it. I won't have it.
Power to Ukraine, but anyway, we're not talking about that. So Luke Shaw gets in, left wing back, it's not a natural position, but I'm trying to be nice and fit into a Chelsea formation here. So you've got a midfield 5 of Reece James, Enzo, Casemiro sitting, Bruno next to Enzo, Luke Shaw. That's my midfield 5, and then the 2 up front. One of them gets in again. He's had a bit of a stinker of a season, but there's no denying he's a top player, and that is Raheem Sterling. You can't have João Felix in here because he doesn't even play for you. He's an Atletico Madrid striker. So what do you mean? What you're saying? Your best attacker is a loanee.
You're breaking my heart.
I've given you your flowers here, and I've let you have Kepa, Reece James, Enzo. I think that's not bad. Raheem Sterling. I've always thought he was a really good footballer. Obviously, a great servant to City, and I think it is so symbolic of how City are well run when it comes to transfers and profiteering, etc., that they managed to sell Raheem Sterling for the same price they paid for him after having all those years of success out of him. And that's how these sensible clubs run. But he gets into this team because, granted, striker's a bit dodgy, but he's played striker for England a couple of times. He was our top scorer at the World Cup, the Euros. Sorry,
as well, didn't he? A couple of times. Yeah, he's good there.
And then obviously, Dr. Marcus Rashford, MBE, OBE, KBE, Sir, whatever he wants to be. He's had his best season for us. He's showing everyone what we knew he'd do, despite what the likes of certain people on Twitter say. Marcus Rashford, if he if he doesn't get you out your seat, then I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're watching football for. If players like that aren't the ones that you want to watch play football, there's an argument that sometimes he's a bit wasteful. I don't care, because when you're as electric and as exciting as he is, especially off the back of the back injury he had, he carried this team for so long. Just for him to have the season this year,
the fact that he was after it was kind of like a fresh, fans haven't seen Rashford like this in a good while, a long time, and I think it's kind of a jolt of electricity running through. Anytime he's on the ball, it's oh my god, Rashford has the ball. This is going to be magical. Waiting to see what he does. It's kind of an oh wow kind of moment when he's on it. I think, for me anyway.
Yeah, he especially when you're at the ground, he gets the ball. Everyone's off their seat because they know he's going to either take on a player, he's going to have a shot. He's going to try something. Whereas, let's say for example, if you're looking at Jadon Sancho this season. He has the talent there, but he's afraid to pull that trigger. He's a bit too kind of tepid, whereas Rashford's rapid. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of the difference between kind of the wingers we have. But what we are going to...
Is there many fans that don't like Rashford? Because I couldn't see if
I was name him. Do you know what it is? It's the clickbait idiots like Johnny FX, Ransom Bants, Mark Goldman.
So you've been nice. You haven't been very nice. You've named them. I was trying to, just not mention them on this channel and give them airtime. That's why I just said. That's why I said,
I name and shame
what certain people say.
I love it.
Those dickheads. The only one that isn't a dickhead is Greg, because Greg's actually a nice guy. But other than that, the rest of them are cunts.
Can we say more? Can we go further? Because I'd gladly go further. We expose everything.
Look, I've just exposed the biggest Rashford haters anyway.
But that's the thing. For me, if you're a United fan, right, and you don't rate Rashford or what he's done or what he's doing at the club at the moment, I think it's just so. It's like I've been saying, ungrateful. Absolutely out and out ungrateful.
Yeah, look what he's doing off.
Chambers put me at it again.
But on that, look, we're going to quickly try to get the lads to agree to 11. So you both name Kepa. Are you both happy with your goalkeeper choice?
I'm happy with that. I think firstly we need to the formation is kind of down to what we need to sort out.
So I think 4 back 3.
I think we go for the back 4. I think we go for the 4.
Right. Okay, we'll go for the back 4.
I was like what we were both doing. You were trying to suit me. I was trying to suit you. But I think for the players that we have, and you have Luke Shaw even out of position. I have Luke Shaw in. You have Luke Shaw in. I think to kind of fit him in and to fit everyone in better, I think we need to go for the back 4.
Okay, back 4. So look, we can establish Kepa, and Reece James, Shaw and Martinez are in, because you both have all them same players. Now, this is where it comes down to centre half. In Jamie's back 3, he had Silva and Varane. But in Evan's back 4, he had Silva. And as we're going back 4, you're going to have to decide whether it's Thiago Silva or Rafael Varane partnering Lisandro Martinez. Jamie, I'm going to get you to present your case first, and then Evan, you're going to present your case then for Silva.
If we're presenting, the case has got to be based purely on this season alone then, because and they've both been obviously phenomenal. Varane's obviously come to United and he's had a few injury problems, and there has been a question mark over him ahead of the season as to whether or not he had the long-term fitness. And it's ironic because obviously he's only just coming back to training at the minute. But again, he is no agenda, but he is one of the reasons, alongside Lissandro, alongside Luke Shaw and Wan-Bissaka, as to why we've kept 18 clean sheets. We've conceded 8 goals at home because him and Martinez have developed this formidable partnership. He's got such a great understanding with Casemiro, and it shows that one of the reasons why Real Madrid was so successful when they had such a good defensive partnership, the two of them. And it's a tricky one because Thiago Silva's mint, but I do think that Varane's probably been just a little bit better than him this season, and the stats back that up.
Don't talk to me. Don't start with stats. Don't give me stats. Look, at the end of the day, right, they're the two very solid players. But what edges it for me, if you look at the position Chelsea are in and where they've been the whole season, the man has stuck it out through week in, week out. He's been an out-and-out right leader. Something that I don't think Varane, if he was in position Silva was in, wouldn't have taken over. Silva was able to knuckle down, speak his role, know what to do, know the position he's in, where the club is in, where the team is at the moment, and still week in, week out, do his job, be arguably in the top 3 centre backs of the Premier League without a doubt. And for me when I was picking this starting 11, there was no explanation on why Silva couldn't be replaced, but I did give the option of changing Martinez with Varane. That's the comparison. I think it was more of a comparison and a close call to shout for Martinez or Varane instead of Varane, because, like I said, that leadership and that quality, that if you put Varane in instead of Silva in where Chelsea are at the moment, Varane wouldn't have taken over. He would have shriveled up with the rest of the club, and it would have been an absolute shit show again. So for me, based on leadership and the quality of the player he is, like I said, it's close call between quality. I think that leadership role just edges it for me, and that's what this team needs, is a full leader.
I mean, this team has leaders, though, because we're going to have Casemiro and Bruno in there. Bruno's a mint captain. Casemiro's a leader. Do you know what
Bruno
I mean?
will get the opposition booked, and you get in the referee's face with
Winjo Fernandes is not it. He's not the leader. He's a baby. He's a baby. He's an absolute baby. So he is. Silva gets tackled. He gets up, takes it on the chin, gets solid, and fucking gives it back. What does Bruno do?
Bruno gets the opposition 2.5 cards every game. What are you on about?
Bruno creates the most chances in the Premier League. That's what he does. Bruno has seasons where he breaks all type of goal involvement records for midfielders, and people go, that's not enough, is it? And then he turns around and goes, all right, okay, I tell you what, I'll just start creating the most chance. People chat about De Bruyne and stuff, and I get that. But honestly, if you put Bruno in that City team, right, and Bruno has Erling Haaland in front of him, Bruno breaks every single assist record that exists, because that man has created 112 chances this season. I think it's 3.2 per game or something like that.
Brian has Haaland. Bruno's had creating these chances with Vel Weghorst and Anthony Martial up top. There's
exactly.
They're both creating the same level of chance.
But that's anyway. He's not the leader you're looking for. He's not the leader of the team. He's not the leader.
Anyway,
he might be able to create chances.
I know you two have to agree on it, right? I know you two have to kind of agree on a team. I just present this just on Bruno's case of being a leader here. Look at the difference in Man United when Harry Maguire's on the pitch as captain, and then when Bruno Fernandes is on the pitch as captain.
Well, I think Harry Maguire's situation, I think that's down to his confidence and his ability on the ball. Harry Maguire is dog shit. He knows he's dog shit. That's why his confidence is shrinking in, and that's why he knows he's not the captain United need. Bruno had to step up to the role. Bruno's the only man that was going to be able to step up to that role. But in a situation where you have Silva on the pitch, Silva
could have been captain. Varane could have been captain. Ronaldo was still
stepping over. Sure, even when Ronaldo was at the club, Ronaldo was the leader of it all. Bruno shriveled up into his little shell.
Bruno was captain when Ronaldo was here.
Yeah, but you can tell Ronaldo was the leader of that. Ronaldo was the one. What do we do now? Where do we go now? What's happening now? Feed everything through.
Bruno had the most chances for United.
I think in terms of what I'm talking about was leadership between Silva and Bruno. I think Silva just step aside, little boy, kind of thing.
Step aside. Varane has won 4 Champions Leagues.
No, I'm saying not between Varane and Silva. I'm saying between Bruno and Silva. I think.
Yeah, but the argument here is, Evan, which centre half gets in?
Well, for me, over the leadership alone, I think it's Silva.
So do you think, on the basis of what Varane has done this season, you think he shouldn't be in there?
It's fair to say, right? If you put Silva in that United team, would you still get the same outcome? I think the two of them are fairly equal in talent and ability. They're absolute ballers in their own right. They proved that in the Prem, and they proved that overseas. They're absolute ballers. But for me, I just think Silva is an out-and-out right leader, and I think if you put Varane in Silva's situation where Chelsea were at all this season, I think Silva just edges it.
Silva's look, both of them are generational centre halves, right? Both Silva and Varane are generational, right? In my opinion, they are. But I think you don't lose anything. You lose experience. But Rafael Varane's won 4 Champions Leagues. He's won a World Cup. He's won La Liga. He's won every single trophy you can win in the game.
But this is what I'm saying. I'd rather
the leader.
I would have rather a toss up between Varane and Martinez. That's where I thought the situation would turn.
There's no way he's not getting into this team though, because he's statistically one of the best in the league.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying. But that's why I thought the argument was going. I didn't think Silva would have been an argument at all.
So I suppose, look, it's your both combined 11s. I can see both like the issue here. So what we're going to do is that they're both not going to agree. I know this.
Actually, hold on, Jamie. I right. Give me Silva, okay? I'll make a proposition. Give me Silva, right? And I will give you leeway up top.
All right. I tell you what. I'm not even against Thiago Silva being in it. It was mainly just based on this season, based on where Chelsea are. But again, like I said, I think he was Chelsea's best. He's been Chelsea's best player this season. He's obviously one of the top centre halves that we've seen over the last couple of decades. And I think that, you know what, I can give you this if it means we can move on. And I didn't go for a Deliveroo Trevor either. I went for a piss because the Peronis are going down a bit too easy.
Right. Well, saying that, I'll give you leeway up top. Right? That's fair, right?
All right. Silva can slot in then. You know what? Perfect. Silva and Martinez is a wicked centre half partnership anyway.
There's definitely bookings there for sure. I think that like Thiago Silva, Martinez, and Luke Shaw. In the back four is
guaranteed 4+ cards every game.
He's in the comments. He says this team the season for this season. No, this is a combined 11 between United and Chelsea. So we've Kepa in goal, and then we have James, Silva, Martinez, and Luke Shaw. So far, midfield three is already confirmed. We both gave the same midfield three. Obviously, so it's Casemiro, Enzo Fernandez, and Bruno Fernandes.
That's a wicked midfield, by the way. I'm just putting out there. That's phenomenal as a midfield. That
I think that would give any midfield a game. I think, to be brutally honest, I think the chance creation, like if you look at the two Fernandes lads right there, the chance creation would just be ridiculous. Out of both.
But also even one of the first fundamentals of winning a football game is to cover more grass than the opposition team, and straight away in Bruno and Enzo, you're covering every blade of grass at least 4 times. Like the engines that they both have on them. But again, that's got bookings in that midfield. Like that's my only fear with this team so far is that we ain't finishing a game, a 9-minute game with 11 men on the pitch.
No, we're not. There's like. That's even when you have Scott McTominay and Fred then to come off the bench as well, and then N'Golo Kante as well. Do you know what I mean? We're ended up with like 8 or 9 players left on the pitch.
I've just spotted the Chambers in the chat. Disaster. Livid. She's livid.
Since we've gone 4-3-3 and Evan said there's leeway up front, I'm going to get Evan to give his front three, and I'm going to get Jamie to see if he agrees with it.
Right. Well, like I said, for me, it was Rashford, Felix, and Sterling. And I think the argument is going to be for Sterling. I don't think Rashford, I won't argue with you on Rashford. Genuinely won't. Felix, I love the boy too much. I think he's a solid player. I think Sterling is where we might have a bit of an issue there. And like I said, I'll give you leeway on it. You can say your points, and I'll try my best to...
What? I mean, I'm not going to lie. If we're going for 4-3-3, if we're playing 3 up top, I'm arguing for Anthony to go in. Based on this.
Show it off. Right, call it off.
Based on this season, in terms of what he's done in our team, is if you actually watch his performances per 90 rather than just listening to what the accounts on Twitter have to say. I'm not saying that's what you do, Evan, by the way. The guy's been integral, and I genuinely think if you put Reece James on the same side as Anthony and give him an overlapping attacking fullback, that's a recipe for success. But for me, it would be Sterling, Rashford, Anthony.
I said I'd give you leeway.
Exactly. So you know what? You can give me leeway by you can have whatever Chelsea person you want in on the left hand side, because you said we're not arguing Rashford. Anthony's coming in.
Don't do me like this.
Anthony's coming in on the right hand side, and that's the leeway. You got Thiago Silva. I'm going to put Anthony in there.
But I didn't think. Why was
It's not too
Silva
late to
such
tag,
an
if you want to
argument?
tag Sean in it, Sean in, Evan. You can give Sean Maroney a ring on WhatsApp and see what he says.
Wait.
Ring Sean here. Do what you do now, right? If you need to find a Chelsea player, I'm not even messing. Sean's active in the group chat right now. Ring Sean, put him on loudspeaker, and ask him which Chelsea player he wants. Felix or Sterling.
Right.
Do it right now, live on air. Let's get Sean.
Hold on. Let me do it. Let me do it.
Or the other option is we just go for a full United front three and we go for Garnacho, Rashford, and Anthony.
Give it over now. I said leeway. I didn't say the whole fucking line. Relax, mate. Relax.
Ring Sean, get him on the line right now. Loudspeaker.
Hold on. Sean. Right.
God, it's spoiled. I hope he answers.
I'm gonna ring him on Facebook.
Do.
Sean is on another call. What's going on?
Oh, no way.
Hold on. I'm gonna try WhatsApp.
Obviously, those who watch the channel, Sean is our other Chelsea fan on the channel. So if we can get Sean live on air, this would be fucking fantastic.
Hold on, it's ringing. Answer, you bastard.
This is our first phone a friend on Weekly Army.
This is the first phone a friend. The man is not picking up.
What's his name? What's his occupation?
His address is.
It's Chris Tarrant, eh?
We're going to have to cancel. Look, I said I give you leeway, right? But don't take the piss. Please don't take the piss. Right? Come on. Don't take the piss.
That's right.
Give me the final. Give me what you're thinking of.
So Felix, for me, Felix can't be an option because he joined you in January. He's a loanee. He was suspended for his first 3 games. Has he done that much realistically? Sterling.
Can I give Evan a suggestion here? If we're going a fully balanced front 3 here, right? Would you not go Anthony on the right, Rashford on left, and Havertz as your number 9 because he is a 9?
Havertz is dog shit though. Honestly,
Yeah,
I do not know what happened with that boy.
No. Hold on. Dog shit is a bit harsh now. I wouldn't go that far, right? But if anything, like
you're forgetting another player, your favorite player.
I know, and I as much as I want to put him in, give me my boy, my American hero Pulisic all day. I will fight tooth and nail for that man, no matter where he goes, no matter what club he plays for. I will fight tooth and nail for that man. He is my all-time modern day hero. So he is. I love him so much. What it is about him, I've gotten slander in the group chat from not only E but from Sean as well, and for whatever reason he's proved himself last year. I remember there was games there where Sean would text in, "Oh, Evan, your boy is coming on. This is a disaster. Everything's gone down the drain. Assist, goal." And I used to love opening up that group chat and just sending a voice note, man.
Anyway, pick your Chelsea player anyway.
But I think Felix has to stay. I think for the potential for what Felix is going to be, I think Felix takes it. Based on that season alone, Sterling gets in, right? Fair enough. Like you said, 3 match ban, whatever, loanee. But for the potential Felix is, I think Felix gets it for me. And that's biased opinion for myself. So I was thinking, right, if you wanted Rashford on the left, Garnacho on the right, or Anthony on the right, sorry, and Felix in the centre.
Yeah, look, we locked it in.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I tell you what, I was about to start the argument for Weghorst being in there, but you've really you've convinced me.
Oh fuck! I'd end the stream if you'd said him. But anyway,
right. In all seriousness, though, can we just appreciate that there is just as much argument for Weghorst or Martial to be in this as there is any of the Chelsea attackers? Like, in all seriousness, like, I will give you Felix. You can have that because that front 3 is pretty naughty. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like that front 3. Again, this team works functionally as well. Which
you could have had that.
Usually, you see
paid. Yeah, it's solid. It's solid on paper, and you can see it's solid on the field as well. Like,
That
exactly.
midfield, Erik Ten Hag is manager of that midfield. Woo! Telling you.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna move on quickly because we've kind of went over our threshold this combined 11. That's completely my fault for choosing the topic in the first place. Right, we're gonna get predicted 11s in both lads, and we'll score predictions, and we're gonna wrap up here. So I'll go to Chelsea first. Evan, give me what you would like to see Chelsea line up with on Thursday.
So I said Kepa goal, right? Fofana, Silva, Chilwell, James. Give me Enzo. Give me Modric on the left. Give me Havertz up front. We'll throw in Mason Mount in behind Havertz, and on the right, then give me. Hold on.
Madigay?
Pulisic. Give me Pulisic all day.
Wait, hold on a second. Hold on. Oh, wait. You were going to put Raheem Sterling in your combined 11. He's not in your 11. And
I was building the suspense. I was waiting for it. Pulisic is going in there all day, every day. My man does not leave me down. My man does not leave me down. I knew I wasn't going to get.
You advocate for aren't even in the fucking
Pulisic is in there. Pulisic is in there.
Oh, Evan, this is why I love you. Fucking nuts. But on that, Jamie, what do you think Ten Hag may do on Thursday?
I think it'll be similar to what we've seen recently. I think we'll go. Obviously, it's going to be De Gea in net. Obviously,
you mean?
But I think it's going to be Wan-Bissaka right back, Lindelof and Shaw centre halves, and I think we'll play Malacia left back.
You think Ferran's missing out?
Is he back 100% fit now? That's my
the last couple of games, yeah.
Well, yeah, but my point is that is this man ever 100% fit since he came back from this last knock? All right, we'll switch it. We're okay. I'll take your word for it that he's going to be fit. You know, with all the in the nose, you know. We'll go for Varane and Lindelof back centre half, and then obviously Luke Shaw, Casemiro. I think Eriksen starts, and Bruno, right, as the midfield three. And I don't know whether or not. I don't know. Why am I overthinking this 100%? This is stressing me out, this.
He's after texting into the private chat, that's why.
Do it. First time, one time, real quick. Just do it real quick.
I've already been. And then
one time, real quick, live. Just do it live right now. Just do it live.
That's right. Anyway,
and then I reckon he goes pragmatic up top, because I've just seen Trevor's comment there, and I think that I'd love Garnacho to start, but I don't think he will. I think Garnacho is going to be the ace in the hole. If it is 1-0 or 0-0 or whatever in the 60th minute, then you throw Garnacho on. So I think it'll be Sancho, Rashford, Anthony. I think we'll keep persevering with Sancho. I know obviously he's been quite disappointing this season. There's obviously question marks hanging over him, but I think we'll keep persevering with him. So I reckon it's that then. De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Lindelof, Shaw, Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno, Rashford, Sancho, Rashford, Anthony. You then he'll bring on Weghorst. He always brings on Weghorst, doesn't he? Loves bringing on Weghorst.
He's a bad smell. You can't get rid of him.
Oh, actually, no. Wait. You know what? I'm going to make a quick change again, because I'm just remembering all these things. Martial, the misnomer, is fit again, isn't he? He's back in a period of random fitness. So maybe Martial starts up top, Rashford off the left, Martial in the middle, Anthony on the right. Maybe that's what it is. There you go.
Yeah. On that, I think I have something similar to yourself, Jamie. You have the Chambers goalkeeper in goal.
She's in the group chat now and just asked you shit talk again, like.
Yeah, I can see it. We'll check WhatsApp later. I'll go Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Martinez, Shaw. I'll go Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Scott McTominay come back in. maybe for an Eriksen for a bit, maybe a physical battle with Chelsea's midfield. I won't be surprised, especially if Chelsea played like Kovacic and that in there. So he may bring McTominay in to kind of match Chelsea physically. He could do that. But I would personally go with the good old reliable Casemiro, Eriksen, and Fernandes. And yeah, I go with the same front three as Jamie. I go Anthony, Martial, and Rashford.
You've only said 2 players there, Keane. Who's the third? You only said Anthony, Martial, and Rashford.
And then Anthony Martial as my striker. And obviously,
really shit banner.
Mustache talk came out. Sorry about that, lads.
Yeah, look, when I go, obviously, Sir Marcus Rashford, MBE. It's yeah, look, that selection speaks for itself. But on that, boys, we're at the end. It's been a great chat. And before I leave both of you go, I won't let you go away without giving me a score prediction. So I'm going to come to the opposition. Evan, how do you think this is going down?
It can either go one or two ways. We could be in for an absolute spanking, or we're going to scrape a 2-1 win. I think.
So 2-1 Chelsea.
I think 2-1 Chelsea. I'm going to go with 2-1 Chelsea.
Interesting. Jamie, do you think United are going to get the win here today, or do you think it's going to be tougher than maybe some expect?
I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be exactly as it always is whenever we play Chelsea, but I think we'll get the point that we need. I think it's going to be 1-1. It'll be 1-1. I know we've only conceded 8 goals all season, but somehow they'll sneak it. It's United. Everyone G's themselves up to play United. We are every single team's cup final every time in the season, and it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting watching us come up against really, really stubborn team like we did against West Ham. They beat us 1-0. And then just decide to get slapped.
But I think he made a fair point there earlier on. Lamps is going to be looking for an absolute scalping for someone. I think this could be the game to do it.
Yeah, and one of those that he's leaving at the end of the season anyway. So it's like part of me wants to go to him like, mate, like it doesn't make a difference to you or your job. Like you're going to be out of a job anyway. Just let us have this one. But I think it'll be a draw. We'll get the point. And Champions League confirmed, and obviously, we then kick on and move on next season.
Yeah, well, we've a small matter of a derby a week later, which, look, we will be doing extensive analysis on next week. We're not going to just one preview, but there's multiple shows we're going to do, and I'm going to try to source a Manchester City fan from somewhere to come on and chat about it as well. And look, Ian says, hi from Australia, great chat, guys. I love this. It's like 10:30 in the morning over there. It's like, and they're currently watching our stream. So cheers for the support, and don't forget to
that's absolutely brilliant.
Up the Aussies.
Yeah, up the Aussies, absolutely. If you're a UFC fan, Volkanovski should have bet Makachev. That's all I'll say. Up the Aussies is right. Comments seem to be quite mixed, quite confident, and also quite pessimistic. But on that, I'll give my score prediction. I'm going to go. If Lampard's naive and decides to press us, I think we could give Chelsea a trimming if he decides to come and press us. Because any team who's come to Old Trafford and done that, we've scored goals. Like we score goals at home. We struggle away from home, but at home, we do score goals. So on that, I'm going to go 2-0 United. I'm saying that with our going on our clean sheet record at home, and goal scorer, just because Evan has done so much shit talk about him for the whole pod. I'm going to go Bruno Fernandes from the penalty spot. That'll just be chef's kiss.
No way.
One straight for them where I am on the Thursday.
Ronaldo.
Bruno from penalty. It would just be beautiful.
Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah. Bruno Fernandes. I am basically German myself.
He says it's 7:30 in the morning. He's watching us. By the way, that's fucking great. That's fucking brilliant.
I'll call it quits.
Evan, he said, have you seen Aussie Rules? Yeah, we've watched it. Ireland play Australia.
I actually love Aussie Rules. There's a few Irish GAA players that go over every year to play the Aussie Rules.
Yeah, they do, don't they? A few Irish players do go over, to play that. Yeah, it's good, but it's rough. But it's
tough sport.
Tough, yeah. But on that, just for this disclaimer, I'm always allowed out of the country. He's saying I'm banned from England for some reason, Trevor, and slander comments. But don't forget, guys, to like and subscribe. We will be back on Thursday with the reaction. Mark will be hosting, probably about 10 o'clock Friday night. Or if you're like Ian in a different part of the world, just immediately after the game. So make sure to have your notifications on the bell. And Evan's a part-time Bayern Munich fan. If you don't know, he's like Reece Russell. He has
following Tuchel all the way.
Multiple clubs. But do check it out, the lads, on social media. That's Jamie's handle. That's Evans as well. And Evans also the Jersey Man on TikTok if you want to go and watch his Irish GA jersey hauls. But obviously, don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll see you later.